All right, I think we can get started. Um, so welcome everyone. My name is Karthik Durisamy. I'm a professor of aerospace engineering at the University of Michigan. And I'm also part of the outreach committee in my department. So that's why I'm looking forward to this event as well. So today we have five speakers for you. I'll introduce each of them as they come on. But I think the most important thing is to have a good interactive discussion. So if you have any questions, please do not hold back. You can either unmute yourself and ask the question, or you can uh, try to post it on the chat window. Any of those things work. So before we get started, I would like the Pioneer team to say a few words, and then I'm going to introduce the first speaker. So please go ahead.
Okay, so thank you everybody so much for coming to our first webinar. So we have a few students today from the aerospace department at the University of Michigan who are going to talk about their educational experience so far, their specific interests in this field of study. And then also really exciting, we have a former Pioneer student and University of Michigan student who is going to talk to us hopefully about her career and her journey as well. And yeah, this is the latest in Pioneer Women of STEM's partnerships, with the University of Michigan. So we're really excited to kick this off. And yeah, I think the students can start introducing themselves so you know a little bit more about them.
All right, great. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, we can have more events as well, and it's easier these days with Zoom. But let me introduce the first speaker, Aisha Bowe. So Aisha, I made you the co-host, so you can start sharing your slides if you want. But as she's doing that, let me introduce her. So Aisha is a former NASA rocket scientist and the founder and CEO of STEM Board, which is an engineering solutions company that recently ranked in the top half of the 2020 5,000 fastest growing companies list, right? So she's a professional. She's at the top of her field. So we're very happy to have her here. And she has connections to both Pioneer as well as UM. So she's an aerospace engineer who started her degree with pre-algebra in a community college in Ann Arbor. And then she transferred to the University of Michigan. And then she went to NASA, and now she's in Washington, D.C. with her firm. And she's on a mission to help the youth break stereotypes, stop internalizing false narratives. And she basically wants everyone to believe in themselves. And most importantly, she is promoting the pursuance of STEM careers. So with that short introduction, Aisha, you can take over.
Thank you. Hi, ladies. I'm so excited to speak with you today. I never could have imagined that I would be giving a talk at Pioneer High School. Like, whoa, hi, 03. So we did an 03. That was our hand symbol for 03. But I wanted to start off by making this a little bit interactive. So I'm gonna just ask Caitlin, because you're the organizer, what do you think best described me as a kid?
Well, you have made it so far in your career, so I'm inclined to say ambitious, hopefully.
So kind of you, absolutely not. I was often getting into trouble for being too talkative. Next, Christina, what sport did I play? Was I a soccer person? Was I a field hockey person? Was I a track person, or was I a gymnastics person?
As a soccer person myself, I'm gonna go for soccer.
Oh my goodness, no. I was a solo team player in the sport of gymnastics. And one more here. What did I want to be when I grew up? Megan.
I'm just gonna randomly guess doctor.
This one's a little bit of a tricky question because I didn't want to be anything when I grew up. I just didn't have any goals or aspirations or dreams. And in case you were wondering what I looked like when I was small, that's me. That tiny human, me. And on the far left-hand side is my dad. And we were really cute. I looked cute in tiny little overalls. And I wanted to show this picture to you guys, and it's kind of crazy, right? Like how much my mom and I look alike. Do you guys notice that? Sometimes I look at her and I look at me and I'm just like, I think we might be the same person. But I wanted to share this with you because when my family was just kind of getting started, my father was driving cab and my mom was cleaning houses. And my dad actually came to Michigan because in the Bahamas, there was a well-known cardio surgeon who used to vacation there. And he became friends with my grandfather. And he was like, you know what, Michigan has a really great hospital. And your son, who my father was valedictorian of his high school in the Bahamas, your son who wants to be a doctor should go there. And that's how my dad ended up in Ann Arbor. My mom grew up in the Bronx and in New York, and her cousins actually migrated to go to Eastern Michigan, and that's kind of what put them in Ann Arbor. So neither of my parents were really thinking, we're going to raise someone that's eventually going to become an engineer and an entrepreneur. They were just sort of thinking, hey, we're going to have kids and maybe we'll figure this out. And I want to mention that because I think that oftentimes in high school, if you're lucky, you have a great understanding of who you are and who you want to be when you grow up. But I didn't have that. And I mean, not to give you guys a spoiler alert, but I'm doing just fine. And so I want you to know that it's okay to not know 100% who you want to be when you grow up. And the joy is figuring that out. So let's talk about that transformation. So for me, I was an NHS. I didn't see women around me who were in STEM. And I really, aerospace engineering, that sounded strange. I never thought about going to Michigan because I thought it was going to be too hard and out of reach. And I had no idea how I would pay for it. I grew up on Huron Street, so like at 7th and Huron. And for me, I would walk to Pioneer in the morning and I was just so uncomfortable because all the kids around me were focused on going to college. My best friend, she was NHS, orchestra, she was in plays, she went to Tulane, and she knew really early on that she wanted to be a doctor. And I would walk to school every day and just think, I don't know what I want to be, and I feel bad about myself because of it. And so for me, this transformation really occurred as I transitioned out of Pioneer, and I started to understand that math and science were things that I could do. And regardless of what people around me saw or thought were possible for me, I could take incremental steps towards a future where I could go to Michigan, I could become an engineer, and even better than becoming an engineer, I could become an aerospace engineer. No shade on the other engineering disciplines, but aerospace engineering is pretty cool. I like to consider us multidisciplinary. So we know some electrical, we know some computer science, we know some mechanical, we know some structural, and we use it all. And we use it all with grace. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen satellites and the shuttles and things. All the engineering disciplines are represented in those products, and they are just amazing. But this journey really led me to think about the high school girl, which is what this story is about and who it's for. Society is going to tell you guys a lot of things. If you're not performing, it'll tell you that you're not good. If you are performing, there'll be pressure to continue to perform and to know what you want to do and to be perfect. And I got here by being imperfect and by embracing that imperfection along the way and allowing it to teach me something about myself. And through that journey, there are a couple things that I want you guys to take away that have nothing to do with engineering, but that are really important. And so I'm going to pause here and I'm going to share them. How you speak to yourself in your head matters so much. Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you are right. And so regardless of where you are right now, I need for everyone here to speak positively in their own mind. If you get a low mark, guess what? I definitely failed some classes at Michigan, but I graduated and I got a good job because I viewed that as not a failure, but it was a setback. I needed to learn how to study better. I needed to go to office hours. I needed to step up my game because I was surrounded by people who were world class and I wanted to be world class. And as a result, I not only came back, but I almost 4.0 my master's degree. But it is oftentimes, thought of as failure, and oftentimes it's success in progress, right? So I want you to keep that in mind. As you go to Michigan, as you matriculate from Pioneer, you will encounter challenges. Things will get hard, but you are more than capable of rising to that occasion. And for me, it was Washtenaw Community College to Michigan Aerospace, where I graduated with an undergraduate degree in Aero in '08. I then went on to complete my master's in space system engineering. And from there, I focused on satellites that were the size of a shoebox, so nanosats. And that took me to NASA Ames, where my first job, like you guys get this, my first space mission, guess who was involved? Anybody out there want to just guess who could possibly be involved on my very first job post Michigan? I know you guys are still alive. Someone's got to guess.
I'll go very high, Barack Obama.
Okay. Tangentially, yes, because he made some decisions to privatize space. So I'll give you bonus points for that. But since I said the P word, privatization, who could have been involved in my very first job post Michigan?
Was it Elon Musk?
Yes. And this is like the cool thing. So we were developing a nanosat pipeline, and somebody named Elon created a space company called SpaceX. And guess what they wanted to do? They wanted to launch nanosatellites out of the Falcon 1E that they were building in Kwajalein, which is an island in the Marshall Atoll that I didn't know existed until I started working at NASA. that was the job. And it was really, 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 really fun. And I can remember the first day being at work and looking at my badge and seeing the NASA sign and just wanting to cry because I finally had a place in the American dream. I'm the kid that never thought they could be an engineer. I'm the kid that didn't think that they were smart. I'm the person that didn't know how they were going to pay for college. And here I'm at NASA. I have a badge. I have a job. And my job is really cool. And from there, I stayed for 6 years and I got to do a lot of really cool things. And it's funny because people are like, what was working at NASA like? I'm like, oh, it was a dream. Like, you may not like calculus, you may not like thermodynamics, but I guarantee you, you're going to love whatever it is that you choose to do with it. And so I drive into work, and the first thing I would do is I'd come in through the back way because I could drive along the airstrip and see if there was anything out there. We would have astronauts that would fly through. They'd stop, get a snack, go to the vertical motion simulator. We would have pilots, like military pilots, that would come through on their jets because we had a federal airstrip. And yes, Barack Obama flew through. And I was able to see him because they landed Air Force One there because it was controlled airspace. And it was so cool to just be in the epicenter of so much technology development and creativity, because I had the audacity to believe that maybe one day I could become an aerospace engineer. And so here's a highlight reel, some cool things. I promised you guys, upper left, pilots just flying through. We were like, hey, can we see your jet? Yes, trust me, if you're ever in the position to ask somebody if you can see their airplane, they will show it to you. They love their planes. As long as you're careful and you follow all of the guidelines on the flight strip, they will definitely show you their plane. In the middle, that's me with General Charlie Bolden, who was the head of NASA. He was the administrator. He's previously been part of space shuttle missions, and he actually came out to present me with an award for being recognized as a distinguished NASA employee at a conference. Surreal, right? Unbelievable that I could have made it that far to not only have a career at NASA, but to have a career that was recognized by leadership within NASA. And then the right-hand side was just cool things that I got to do. I actually was awarded with Space Shuttle Simulator Time for one of my performance reviews. I had the best boss ever. And he said, hey, Aisha, you did really good this year. We don't have enough money for performance bonuses, but you know what we do? We're going to give you 30 minutes of space shuttle simulator time. We had a 6th degree of freedom space shuttle simulator. I was like, what? He's like, oh, and we loaded it with all the alternate runways. Did you guys know the space shuttle has like runways in like Spain? Like just in case they mess up the orbit and they've got to land somewhere else, they have them all over the world as plan B. And so I was able to land the space shuttle abroad with a blown out tire, and they put it on a DVD and they sent me home. And I still have that DVD. That DVD is in my basement. I can't wait to like show people. I mean, my grandkids are going to think that I'm cool. I know it, but I'm saving that DVD. But these are the cool things that you get to do after you're rewarded for graduating from engineering and studying all that math and science. And on the far bottom, that picture of me in front of like this big pool is actually the Nebel. That is the Neutral Buoyancy Lab in Houston, Texas, where NASA has submerged pieces of the space station to train astronauts how to react to microgravity. The closest approximation is being underwater. And it's also the motivation for me becoming a certified scuba diver, because one day, maybe if I get up enough courage, I too will be an astronaut. And I don't care whether I'm an Elon astronaut or a NASA, future vehicle astronaut, but I look forward to having the expertise where I can contribute to the history of human spaceflight. But once again, all of this started on a house on Huron Street in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and a dream that came out of my experience at Pioneer High School. And so I kind of want to leave you guys with this. And I feel that this is one of the more important things that I hope that you'll take with you along your academic journey. It is not who you think you are that holds you back. It's who you think you're not. So today, I want you guys to think of yourself as future engineers, as future scientists, as future technologists. And I don't want you to allow momentary setbacks, which may seem really big and really fatal and really significant, to get in the way of what will ultimately be a rewarding and amazing career in STEM. Here's a little bit more. So not only did I feel like I wanted to be in STEM, but when I founded my company 7 years ago, I was really determined to make it a thing where people connected STEM with more than just like stem cells. So you guys, I bought the domain for my business 7 years ago. STEM was not what it is today. People did not know science, technology, engineering, and math. And this is a thing that I love about you guys today. Your community matters. The very same, my best friend to this day, I met her at Pioneer High School. And we've supported each other the entire journey. I almost know the entirety of my graduating high school class, and we're still friends. I know people as adults are like, wow, that's crazy. People from your high school? I'm like, yeah. I know people from my high school. I know people from middle school. I even know 3 of the babies that were in the baby corral with me, and we're still friends. And we're from St. Joe. We're from the St. Joe Corral on November 4th in 1985. But my point here is that none of this was done by me alone. It was done by my team, and it was done by a support system of other women and other engineers who felt that they not only wanted to create companies, but they wanted to support me in spreading the joy of studying science and technology abroad. And that includes Kim, who Kim joined from Michigan, but we've just been on a mission to share STEM, not only here in the US, but anywhere where anybody can hear my voice. And so with that, I kind of want to leave you guys with this. I'm going to send a couple of these to Pioneer as a gift. So you're going to have to tell me who do I send it to? Maybe I send it to our organizer here. But during the pandemic, I was so frustrated with what I saw with STEM learning, especially when it came to things that were happening remotely, because people just felt uninspired. And one of the things that I want for you guys to feel is not only inspired, but I want you to be exposed to some of the same concepts that you're going to learn in college, because my introductory electrical engineering class was one of the scariest experiences of my life. I actually saw a breadboard and circuits and I had no idea what to do. And there were a lot of kids who went to private schools who had seen things and I just didn't know how I was going to survive. And so my team and I created something called Lingo. It is a self-paced coding kit that allows you to build a backup sensor for a driverless car. We also have other activities, but I'm going to send a couple to Pioneer and maybe I can figure out how many people are in the group. But if you guys are going to be future engineers, I want you to be exposed to these things. I want you to be able to tinker and learn while you're at home. And so with that, I'm going to close. I left out a lot of things that I hope you guys are going to ask me about during our question and answer session. But I love Hidden Figures because it really brought a lot of the work that people like myself did at NASA to light. And for that, I want you to understand that all of you guys are role models. You may not realize it yet, but there's someone who looks up to you, who's watching what you do. And it's very difficult to emulate success that you can't define. I received an undergraduate degree in aerospace engineering from Michigan when I was 23 years old. My father completed his degree in electrical engineering when he was 40. My father attended my master's program graduation in 2009. He then went back and got a master's degree in electrical engineering in 2011. He is now a PhD student in electrical engineering at Wayne State University. And so if you're following that timeline, you understand that it was part of my educational journey to inspire his. And now he's working as an engineer for Chrysler and GM in Detroit. And so I want you to think about that. I want you to think about having more of these talks, engaging with more leaders, and letting people know that you are the future of science, technology, engineering, and math careers. Thanks, guys.
Wow, Aisha, that was amazing. That was really nice. So, so what we can do now is, if you have a couple of quick questions for Aisha, you can ask them. Aisha, would you be able to stay with us for the whole hour, or do you have to leave? In which case, we can have your questions right away.
Oh, I'm staying.
Okay.
I'm not going anywhere.
All right, perfect. Thank you. But I open the floor for questions, at least for a few minutes now, and then we can get to the students.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So like right now I'm kind of in the process of like applying and choosing a school to go to right now. Oops, sorry. I'm like in the process of applying to schools and trying to see what path, like, I guess my like education takes me. And part of it, because I'm interested in going into aerospace engineering too. But I guess part of the thing with like applying to colleges is that like they kind of want to see you have a certain background in this kind of stuff before you go into even like your undergraduate degree, which is, like joining clubs or taking certain classes. And not to say that like I wasn't interested in it during high school, but I didn't, I guess, get the opportunity to join those certain things, I guess, as I wanted to. And I might feel like sometimes it like stifles my like prospects of, going into that if I haven't had like a previous like actual like experience. But like it kind of seems similar to what you were saying about how like you didn't really know what you were going into until like a little bit later, and you still like were able to make it. So do you have like any advice for someone kind of wanting to go on that route but doesn't really have like a great foundation for that right now?
Absolutely. So you guys, there's this old book. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. Has anybody here heard of it? Just show of hands. I don't want to date myself, feel kind of old. Okay, you guys need this book. Go get it. It's on Amazon. I think maybe it's like $5 or $7. Yeah, Dale Carnegie. Like it's like maybe $5 or $7. It's really, really old, but it teaches tried and tested techniques for getting people to talk to you and then liking you because they talk to you. Now, the reason I mention this is one of the more powerful things I did as an early career person, not having any exposure, I was able to strategically introduce myself to people who could give that exposure to me. So little do you guys know, but people like me, we love to inspire people like you. So send a note and say, hi, I'm really interested in aerospace. Do you think you could let me shadow you? Do you think I could attend some meetings or tag along or come and see the facility? You would be absolutely surprised what comes out of that. I don't know how much time you have before your applications, but I would kind of love to know a little bit more. Let's see, are you applying to college for the fall of this year?
Yeah.
There are a lot of aerospace related seminars and workshops and things like that that you might be able to attend, which I understand they're not an internship, but there are things that you can say that you participated or people that you corresponded with to give you a better understanding of the field. If you have more time, I highly, highly recommend emailing random people. Like, one of the best thing about the pandemic is that people are home and they're watching their email. And I'll tell you what, I have a mentor, her name is Claire Luce. At 13 years old, I met her at an aviation science fair. And she walked right up to me and she said, I want to be in aerospace. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. She sent me an email after I gave her my card, and I ended up inviting her in to hang out with me for the day. That turned into her being 16 and having an unpaid internship at NASA, which turned into more opportunity. She's now graduating as a senior at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo in aerospace, and she's going to work for Blue Origin, right? So, you know, everything starts small, but I encourage you guys to read this book or just Google some of the techniques and start reaching out to people. And don't get discouraged if they don't respond. I promise you, somebody is going to respond. And oh, by the way, Kartik and Kimberly know everybody. Like Michigan Aerospace, the lineup is insane. They have some really, really, really interesting people. Like Kiko, who is in my class, is basically running ops for Dragon right now. We can get you who you need to talk to, ladies. But you have to take the first step and just reach out and let people know that you want to pursue this and that you want to be connected with somebody that can talk to you or provide you with an opportunity. So can, just by a show of hands, can everybody just go like this and say, I promise I am going to advocate for myself. I am going to write somebody or contact somebody and let them know what it is that I want to do so that they can help me, and make it like 10 people. And if you need any help, like, you know, I'm a real person, so connect with me on Instagram. I do get a lot of messages, so just be patient. It could take me a couple days to get to you, but like if I know somebody, I'll make a connection. But this is something that's perfectly within your network to solve.
Yeah, thank you, Aisha. And yeah, I can, you know, you have my email, and some of these questions we can also take in our department, and we can help you out. But as Aisha said, I mean, you have to advocate for yourself. That's the key thing. But Kim and I can also help, and there are many other resources. And I wasn't planning to say this, but you know, Aisha touched upon this a couple of times. You know, the Michigan is right next door, so maybe you don't think about it as much. And maybe in your mind you think, you know, there is a school. Yeah, it's a very good school. Maybe in the, when you look at US News, university rankings in the top 25. But when you actually look at some of the STEM programs, if you look at aerospace, it is always in the top 3 in the country, maybe top 5 in the world. In my opinion, I think even that is not fair. I don't think we're any worse than number 3, right, in the world. So you have a resource that is truly world-class right next door. And, you know, we are an email away. So we'll be very happy to help you. And I also want, sorry,
No, please.
Yeah. And, you know, any of the current students who are there, if you have a quick word like Sanomi or Ericka, Delenn, Julia, any of you, if you want a quick answer to add to the question, that would also be helpful, because Aisha is an all-star, superstar, but she's did this 10 years ago or 15 years ago. You guys are more current.
I wanted to add, so Michigan being world-class cannot be like emphasized enough. I'm gonna tell you guys a story that I rarely tell, but is like super cool. So my first, like the first time I was at NASA Ames, they had like all these seminars and things, right? And I ended up having dinner with Buzz Aldrin. Yeah, Buzz Aldrin, second out the hatch, Buzz Aldrin. And I'm kind of sitting there and I'm just like, what am I going to talk to this guy about? Like, he's been on the moon. I'm just like, wow, I'm literally looking at US history. And he turns to me and he's like, hey, you went to Michigan? I was like, yes, I went to Michigan. He was like, oh, do you know Professor Faith or Professor, I think it was Burning. And I was like, oh, I've heard of them. He was like, oh, they were so awesome. They taught us everything that we knew to walk on the moon.
Yeah.
Okay, I've heard of that. And there was another time when there was a Professor Fisk. I don't know if he's at the university anymore, but he was really good friends with Neil Armstrong. And we were kind of given a heads up. Whenever Neil came, we weren't allowed to talk to him and we weren't supposed to take any pictures. But he would just casually walk through FXB, which is the aerospace building, on his way to go and talk to Professor Fisk. And I just remember being there and being like, oh my gosh, I'm part of this history. It is an incredible aerospace legacy and it's like 15 minutes away from you. So definitely tap into that. And I know what I told you is probably not even the tip of the iceberg of like the coolest things that happen in the Michigan Aerosphere.
Yeah. And you, anytime I go to a company like SpaceX, there are at least 50 Michigan graduates and they are the vocal lot and, you know, they wear their colors. Anyway, so, but we have to move on because we have a lot more exciting content here. So Delenn / Sanomi / Julia, I don't know which one of you is presenting, but if you can get started, I made all three of you as co-hosts. And Ericka, you can go after them because Delenn has to get back to lab. She's actually calling in from the lab. So one of the three, I know you had a short presentation. If you can get the slides up and running and share the screen, that would be good. Thank you so much. And extra thanks for you, Delenn and Julia, because you're supposed to be in class right now and you got permission from your professor. But yeah, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Sanomi and I'm presenting with Delenn, and we're going to be talking a little bit about what it's like to pursue your Michigan engineering degree and little things that you can expect along the way.
So first we'll both introduce ourselves and talk a bit about some of the things we're involved in college and some of the experiences we've had. And then we'll talk a bit about the aerospace engineering at Michigan in general, and then different ways to get involved in college, mostly through the different student organizations and project teams and research we are particularly involved in, but that's by no means an exhaustive list and just serves as an example of the countless opportunities that are available. And then we'll give a few tips for advice for transitioning from high school to college and some things that might be useful to know.
Hi, so I'll start by introducing myself just a little bit. I am majoring in aerospace engineering and I'm pursuing a minor in electrical engineering. I am slated to be graduating next year in May 2022. I actually grew up in Ann Arbor and went to Pioneer High School, class of 2018, if anybody remembers. And some things that I'm involved in at Michigan are I used to work at the Plasma Dynamics and Electric Propulsion Lab as a research assistant. I'm currently a board member of the STT Aerospace Honor Society. I've interned with Raytheon Technologies in last summer, and next summer I'm going to be at Northrop Grumman Space Systems. I'm also involved with the Phi Sigma Rho Engineering Sorority, Women in Aeronautics and Astronautics, or WA, and the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, or AIAA. And I'm also in Maze Mirchi a cappella.
Okay, so hi, I'm Delenn. I'm a sophomore double majoring in aerospace engineering and computer science. And I'm also from Ann Arbor, Michigan. So I didn't go to Pioneer, but I know what it's like to grow up in Ann Arbor. And I'm also a part of the Engineering Global Leadership Honors Program. So through that, I'm getting the International Minor for Engineers, focusing on Japanese language and culture, because I find that really fun and interesting. And then I'm also currently the outreach chair for the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, which is the Professional Aerospace Engineering Society. And then I'm also outreach lead for the Students for the Exploration and Development of Space, the U of M chapter, and the Collaborative Lab for Advancing Work in Space. And I'm also the one of the webmasters for SGT. And in the past, I've also been involved with Women in Aeronautics and Astronautics, the Student Space Systems Fabrication Laboratory, UMAero, and the Society of Women Engineers.
Yeah, so we wanted to highlight some of the great things about being a Michigan engineer. As previously mentioned, it is a ranked school. As of last night when I checked, it was ranked at number 4 in aerospace engineering in schools across the country from US News. There's a really exciting hands-on curriculum. Pretty much from your freshman year, you'll get like hands-on experience with projects. On top of that, there's a lot of extracurricular opportunities and project team opportunities. There's a snapshot of our MFly plane that we have under our project team opportunities. And we also have really world-class research programs that undergrads are able to get involved in. So these are all of the little things that make our Michigan engineering experience really world-class and really something that you ought to consider pursuing.
So mentioning a little bit more about AAA and WA. AAA stands for the American Institute for Aeronautics and Astronautics, and it's a professional society that promotes learning, collaboration, and engagement and service for aerospace engineers and related majors. We do professional development events like resume reviews and info sessions with companies. We engage in public policy, so reaching out and meeting with elected officials to advocate for increased support for national aerospace industry policy. We do social events and also outreach initiatives. About a week and a half ago, we actually had our first virtual aerospace day event and had a whole bunch of K-12 students be involved and get exposed to the aerospace department. And hopefully we'll have another one soon. And then if Sanomi, you want to talk about WA?
Yeah, so WA is kind of the second large aerospace society that we have here at Michigan. It's the Women in Aeronautics and Astronautics. It's actually not just for women. Anyone can join, which I think is really cool. And WA is dedicated to fostering a sense of community, improving diversity within aerospace, and building personal and professional connections. What that means is that WA offers like a multitude of different events and that you can attend to sort of meet other women and other people in the aerospace engineering department and other majors who are interested in aerospace engineering topics. They also provide a lot of development, public policy, social, and outreach initiatives for college students and beyond.
Okay, so next, I kind of wanted to mention more about the Engineering Global Leadership Honors Program, because I know coming into college, I didn't know anything about this. And then through my time here, I came to learn about it, and I find it really fascinating, and maybe one of you will also be interested in it as well. So the Engineering Global Leadership Honors Program is a specialization within the Engineering Honors Program with the aim to help students learn to communicate across cultures and across the engineering and business boundary. And so within it, you complete both a bachelor's and master's degree in the College of Engineering, and also receive the International Minor for Engineers, focusing on some language or culture or multiple. And you also take some classes in the Ross School of Business and do a capstone project through the Tauber Institute for Global Operations. And I really love EGL because there's such a strong community. And I remember, because I was just accepted into it this year, and so we've been virtual all year, yet I really feel a part of the community because everyone is so welcoming and open and always just there to talk about your interests and their interests, and it's a really great place to be in. So I guess transitioning into some of the more student organizations and project teams that we're a part of. I am a part of SEDS, which is the Students for the Exploration and Development of Space. And so the SEDS at the U of M chapter of this helps promote space exploration by doing multidisciplinary project teams, professional development opportunities, K-12 outreach activities, and social events. And so 3 of the main project teams we have are the Collaborative Lab for Advancing Work in Space, and then BLISS, which stands for the Bioastronautics and Life Support Systems Group, and they do a variety of projects aimed at supporting a sustained human presence in space and design, build, and test deep space prototype technology. And then we have BLUE, which the biannual launches for undergraduate education. So building science payloads to be launched into suborbital flight to make it more accessible to undergraduate students. And we also do a bunch of other smaller projects as well. It's really up to all of our like passions for space and just being able to be more involved with that. And so a bit of it more about CLAWS, which is the project team I'm involved with, is the Collaborative Lab for Advancing Work in Space. And it's a multidisciplinary group that works on human-centered software applications to advance humanity's presence in space. For example, developing augmented reality systems for space exploration, applications like helping astronauts with EVAs. And one of the things I'm currently working on is helping to develop and integrate Vega, which is the voice entity for guiding astronauts, which is a conversational AI to help astronauts on EVAs by providing like status on bioinformatics and supplies and allow them to make inquiry on upcoming tasks and navigation. So essentially a Siri for astronauts.
Yeah, so we briefly talked about the opportunities that we're involved in that have to do with the aerospace department. However, there exists a lot more opportunities that you can get involved in. To name a couple, there is the Bioastronautics and Life Support Systems, or BLIS, the Student Astronomical Society, or SAS, and they do telescope and planetarium stuff. There's also a lot of project teams. I know those are really popular here at Michigan. One of our biggest are MRover, where they design, build, and test a complete, fully functioning Mars rover. And yeah, it's really cool. I would really recommend that one too. There's also the Student Space Systems Fabrication Laboratory. And for research, we have Professor Lab Research, where there's a ton of directed study options, where you can just reach out to a professor and usually they'll be able to respond if you're interested in their research work. We have the Michigan Exploration Laboratory, or MXL, where they build CubeSats, which are really cool. And we also have programs like UROP, which is the Undergraduate Research Opportunity Program. And it's available to first and second year research students across all disciplines. And we also have the Multidisciplinary Design Program, or MDP.
So yeah, I guess just some advice or things that were helpful to know transitioning from high school to college, and things that we learned maybe the hard way, but so I guess the first thing is pursue your passions and don't be afraid to get involved. There are lots of great opportunities in college, and like getting involved is a great way to help like narrow down your interests and help you decide on a major if you still aren't sure. And I guess one thing I have to add to that is don't be intimidated by the people who are already in the student orgs and project teams. Because I know when last year, my freshman year, when I started joining them, I felt like everyone else knew so much more than I did, and they were all older and I didn't know anyone. But I kind of forced myself to stay involved, and eventually it paid off. And like now I'm outreach chair and webmaster and like all sorts of different positions, because I love having the responsibility to be more involved now. But I think just initially like forcing myself to get involved was a great thing to help with that. And then I guess I'll mention the next bullet point too, which is it's okay to not know what you want to pursue as a major, and it can take time to decide. Coming into college, like I didn't know I wanted to do aerospace engineering. I just know that I loved math, especially calculus and science as well. And I'm like, hey, why not? Let's try engineering. And then like now I can't imagine not doing engineering because I love it a lot. But even like through most of last year, I did not know what I wanted to major in. And so really getting involved in different clubs and organizations really helped with that. I don't know if Sanomi, you want to add on to like the other points.
Yeah, of course. One thing that's important to know in college is that it's important to maintain a healthy work-life balance. I know in high school, you're used to maybe joining like 10 or 12 clubs and still having like time to finish all your homework, ace all your classes, because y'all are really smart, obviously. But in college, things can get a little bit more difficult, and programs can get a little bit more demanding. So if you get overwhelmed, it's okay to like prioritize and be like, hey, I don't really have time to like commit to this club and constantly be reevaluating what you are and aren't capable of handling in a semester, because if you get overwhelmed, it's going to really impact your performance and who you are. Study groups are a great way to sort of reach out and meet other people in your major and understand concepts. I know that study groups have helped me a lot in the past, and just having other students be able to explain concepts to me and vice versa has like really helped me solidify concepts in the courses that I've taken. So I'd recommend getting involved in those while you're in college. And my other 2 points are just about understanding that it's okay to be unsure with where you are and what you want to do. I know that like in college, I feel like I meet tons of people who I'm like, oh, well, they are obviously like very set, know exactly what they're doing. Like they're perfect. I'll never be like that. But nobody's 100% sure. And it's okay to like reach out and ask for advice and questions. Just believe in yourself and your goals, because you are in college for a reason. Somebody saw the potential in you and they were right. And don't rely on approval from others. Just knowing that you are here and you're valid should be enough for you to get through what college is mostly like. Another thing that a lot of students have faced, including myself, is imposter syndrome. And I feel like everybody goes through this at one point. And I think it's just important to recognize that we're all human and we all have our own strengths and faults. So maybe there's just going to be certain classes or certain concepts that you're going to have a little bit more time, going to need a little bit more time to digest and fully process. And that's like completely fine, because that's different for everybody. And I think the biggest takeaway from that is that it's hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So there's this big misconception that you need to be like a super genius to like be an engineer, when that's really not the case. You just need to have like the grit and determination to want to solve the problems that you were faced with. Yeah, and oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to email Delenn and I, specifically also about like coming from the Ann Arbor public school system. We probably are able to answer a lot of questions when it comes to that. And if you have any questions from this presentation or any like want on any advice or mentorship, feel free to reach out. Okay.
Thank you so much. You know, you all, I mean, have been so eloquent. If I were a high school student, I would have really been inspired. And I don't know what else I could have done, but that was really fantastic. So we have actually 3 more speakers, but I want to quickly ask Pioneer how much time you have, because we kind of want to budget it properly now.
Our next class starts at 1:35.
1:35. Okay, so we can at least go for another 20 minutes, right? Okay, so our next speaker is Ericka Alejandra. So she is a junior, and both Sanomi and Ericka were in my class, and that's how I knew them. So Ericka, you can go ahead. I don't know if you have a presentation or if you want to just talk through your experience. Either is fine.
Yeah, I have one slide because I didn't know people were making whole presentations. So I apologize to everyone about that.
No. One slide is the best slide. And I made you co-host so you can share.
Yeah, I'm mostly just going to be talking about like my personal experiences of going through the College of Engineering, because honestly, I did not want to be an engineer. But you know, I should probably be better at technology as an engineering major. But I am in my 3rd year, and I'm actually going to be graduating a year late. So I am studying aerospace engineering. My name is Ericka Mendez, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I am currently involved as a mentorship chair for WA. So I just make sure that everyone kind of like is getting along together, and we create families where everyone can ask questions. I'm also a member of MASCA, which is like the rocketry team here. I'm in AIAA, and I'm actually right now in California interning with Tesla. And outside of class and work, I love biking and hang out with friends. Right now, it's a lot of Zoom calls, which of course we're trying to stay safe. So that's the best option right now. That's my email there in case anyone wants to reach out to me, but I'm going to stop sharing and then just continue talking a bit more. But this is going to be such a weird story, but I originally wanted to be a lawyer, right? Because I watched too much like criminal shows like growing up. I was like, wow, that looks really cool. But my dad is an engineer and he took me to his office one day and I just fell in love with like what he did. And so that's kind of how I got my inspiration to go into engineering. And it was my senior year of high school. So once I started applying places, I had no clue what I wanted to do. All I knew that in high school is I had to be a good student to get into college, right? Like I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was always more in the sciencey fields rather than like, I would never take an AP English class. I could not do that. But I was like researching different engineering careers because all I knew was mechanical and electrical, right? Like the big ones. And I saw aerospace. I'm like, well, that's a cool name. Let me just apply for Michigan then. And I don't know how I got in, right? Like I'm still experiencing imposter syndrome 3 years later, right? I feel like that has not gone away. I had to wait for the letter to physically come in the mail with my name because I did not believe that like someone who has no experience, like I had no like real life experiences at all before getting accepted into college, right? Like I think I wrote my essay about like, just like my life growing up, but it did not include anything technical. I was like, I have no clue why I want to do engineering, but I do. And I picked aerospace kind of like, I was like, okay, there's 17 17 engineering majors. Let me just pick one that looks cool. So I was like, I'm definitely not doing chemistry. I based my major around not doing chemistry because I cannot do that. And I picked aerospace and I took my first aero class and also just fell in love with that. And now I'm just like stuck on this path where I absolutely love what I'm learning and who I'm friends with. And it has just been a whole experience getting into the college. And so how Aisha was mentioning, oh yeah, it's a good option to have like some experience before you apply to schools. And I totally do agree with that, but I'm not 100% sure that's like the way to go if that's not how you want to go into it. Because for everyone, it's different, right? Like, for example, for my current internship, on paper, I look like the worst candidate, right? I have no experience whatsoever in electrical stuff because I'm working with the solar team here at Tesla. So it's a bunch of electrical components. I am not taking any electrical classes at all. I have no experience working on anything electrical. And the first day I talked to my manager, I was like, hey, I just want to let you know, I don't really know anything. He's like, yeah, like we know, like we didn't hire you because you knew this stuff. We hired you because you're going to be able to learn it. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm glad that he knows that I don't know what I'm doing because then that just makes it easier on all of us. But I think that the biggest advice I can give you guys is to just keep working. If I hadn't applied for this, right, because I believed that I couldn't get in because I don't have the knowledge behind it, then I wouldn't have applied and wouldn't have gotten the job, right? Like, I feel like if you apply yourself and just go out of your own comfort zone and just, okay, I might not have the experience, but they might not be looking for someone with experience, right? Like, kind of just push yourself out there and be like, okay, I'm not qualified. And the worst that they can say is no. And just keep applying, right? Like, same goes with colleges. You might not be the best student on paper, but there might be something in your background that they're really like fell in love with you or whatever. So just apply yourself, like, even if you don't think you can get in, I promise you, like, other people are looking for stuff that you might not know that you have. And so I don't know, I'm not fully like prepared as Sanomi and Delenn were, because that was a great presentation, as well as Aisha, but my biggest advice is just go for it. Like, the worst that can happen is that people say no, right? Like, you not applying is worse than you applying and being told no.
Thank you so much, Ericka. And your advice and viewpoints are as valuable as anything that we've heard, right? So thank you for doing that. So we have two more presenters, but they've, kind of joining forces given the time that we have left. But I also don't want to have, presentation after presentation. So if you have some questions, we can take a couple and then get back to the presentation. So if you have any question to any of the speakers, this would be a chance.
I have a question. So I'm a senior, so I've just finished all my college applications, waiting on decisions, some of which have already come out. And so I'm in the process of which I think is the hardest decision of which school do I actually want to go to. And now I'm in a room full of Michigan grads and students at Michigan. and Michigan's one of my top choices, and honestly moves higher to higher every time I hear somebody talk about it, because I think there's a lot of passion behind Michigan grads. And I guess why did you choose Michigan? What was the one thing that set it apart for you?
I want to say, first of all, congratulations on all your colleges and stuff. My sister's also a senior. She's getting all her applications back. And my parents are literally because she's smarter than I am, right? Like, she's getting into way more places than I did. And so my parents literally have like a place in the living room with all her acceptance letters. And like, they're trying to sift through the best one or whatever. Honestly, pick the school that you think will be best for you, right? Like, for example, whenever I applied, I got into like Michigan Tech and U of M, right? Like, U of M has more appealing for aerospace, and Michigan Tech, this is gonna sound so like maybe kind of dumb, but it's cold. I don't want to live in cold weather, right? That's one of the reasons. It's a great school to go to, but it's not for me. I could not do Michigan Tech winters. And so I was like, well, I don't want to suffer through winter over there just because it's like, I don't know, pick a school that you want to go to, because you're going to be living there for 4 years or more.
I can also answer this question. I remember when college decisions came out for me, I was in between Michigan and another good engineering school. And what I did to sort of narrow down my decision was looking at like what opportunities were at the school and whether that fit with what I wanted to do. For example, I was like, well, I really want to do aerospace, but what if I get there and I decide I want to do like political science? Will I be able to like switch majors, and will it still be like a good school? And I saw that like Michigan really had like flying marks across like all colleges. I also really love to sing, and I like know that Michigan has like really good opportunities for like arts and like community events. So I kind of just like looked at the school holistically. So I guess that's something that you could like do, like looking at the pros and cons of attending one versus the other.
Yeah, I would like to add that breadth of excellence is something that is at Michigan that's unmatched, because if you look at any program in any field of human activity, Michigan would be right there at the top 5, top 10, anything, right? Medicine, law, music, performing arts, any branch of engineering, physics, chemistry. So I think that's certainly one thing. But I don't want you to like, I don't want to make this a Michigan and a Michigan aerospace meeting. But yeah, so are there one more quick question before we get on to the last speakers?
I just wanted to tag on to what to Sadie's question, and also think about the alumni presence. And once again, I guess this is like a solid vote for Michigan, but I've never lived in a city that didn't have a strong alumni group. Like, everywhere I go, even when I'm abroad, like I run into Michigan alums in Paris, I ran into them in Africa. I mean, they're kind of everywhere and super active and always willing to help, and also occupy a lot of positions of leadership and are very willing to assist. And that was something that as a student, I didn't really appreciate. But now as a professional, I tap on my Michigan alum friends all the time for assistance, career advice, just to kind of stay in the know, and they're super supportive.
Yeah, go to any country in the world, and if you're wearing Michigan gear, if you do not hear a Go Blue, I would be shocked, because that's what happens to me all the time. And we are the most passionate alumni. I don't know, maybe if the football program continues to suck for another 5 years, maybe that'll be gone, but we'll see. All right, let's get to the other two speakers. So Christina and Leanne. So I don't know which, I'm going to give both of you, I'm going to make both of you as co-hosts. And Christina and Leanne may give you a slightly different perspective, but similar. And I said slightly different because both of them are graduate students. And every other speaker so far, except Aisha, she was a grad student at some point, were undergrads. So yep, take it away, Christina and Leanne.
Hello, I think I'm gonna go first. So I will speed through my slides.
Sure.
If I can get it pulled up. Okay, so hello, my name is Leanne. This is a fresh meme that I have made to appeal to the youths about electric propulsion, which is my field of study. Sanomi actually worked in my lab for a while, which was really fun. So yeah, there's electric propulsion in your area, and it's very likely actually. It's real. It's here. So a little bit about who I am. My name is Leanne. I use she, her pronouns. I'm from Seattle, Washington. I like embroidery and swimming. You can see I embroidered my family dog in this little picture here. I love my cat Pudge. She's a very good cat. And I'm a PhD candidate here at the University of Michigan in aerospace engineering. And this is a picture, this is what I look like when I don't have a mask on. I'm at work right now, so sorry if my voice is ever muffled or anything. So how did I get here? I feel like everyone has kind of done one of these. So for me in high school, I really liked Star Trek. I just got super into it. I met Nichelle Nichols, who's literally one of my like personal heroes of all time, at a Star Trek convention. And like, I don't think I could speak human words. I just made noises, but I got her to sign. You can see her, she wrote my name. She wrote Leanne, which is wild. But so I met Nichelle Nichols, just love Star Trek. I got involved with the robotics team at my high school, and I really enjoyed it. So then for undergrad, I went to the University of Washington, and I got my bachelor's there in aeronautical and astronautical engineering, and I also got a minor in diversity. While I was an undergrad, I worked as a research assistant in the Fusion Z-Princh laboratory, where I got a bunch of experience with not only research in general, but specifically kind of the world of plasma physics. And that's where I am now. So as I said, I'm now a PhD candidate here at the University of Michigan. I work on electric propulsion, and more specifically, I'm going to say a bunch of words. These words probably won't mean anything to you, and that's okay. I work on krypton propellant, on optimizing krypton propellant on magnetically shielded Hall thrusters. And to the best of my ability, I will try to at least talk about what that means. The point is, though, this really cool picture in the bottom right-hand corner is a thruster that I was running a couple months ago in our very beefy vacuum chamber here at the lab. So yeah, how else did I get here in terms of like logistics? I went to therapy and I made a lot of friends that are really supportive. And I think like those are really some of the most important things. Like I wouldn't be where I am without this, you know? This picture on the upper right-hand corner is me and some of my friends in my graduating class at like our kind of end of the year party. The bottom left is my lab mates and I doing a hat day that our advisor made us do kind of near the beginning of COVID, when you know, he was trying to keep our spirits up to some effect. And this middle picture is some of my undergrad lab mates actually, when we went to visit one of the NASA centers. So this is 3 or 4 years ago now for me, but I remember it like pretty fondly, I would say. What is undergrad engineering even like? So in my opinion, it's a time to figure out what you want and also what you don't want. So I did an internship at oh God, what are they called now? Aerojet Rocketdyne when I was an undergrad, which is now Lockheed Martin. And I realized that industry wasn't really for me. And that's okay. You know, I think like undergrad is a great time to figure that out rather than 2 years after I graduated and I've been working somewhere already. It's also a great place to make friends and build communities. I think a lot of people have talked about this, but you know, cold calling or emailing professors and just reaching out of the blue, a lot of them will be really responsive. And it was also hard, you know, but then it made it easier to become friends with everyone else. So that was nice. Some of the cool stuff I did in undergrad, this is my senior design project. I helped build this plasma actuator for a rocket on our department's rocket team. And I also had an internship at a local company where I worked on this pulsed atmospheric plasma jet. So these are little plasmas, and we had like a nanosecond pulsed high voltage supply, and it would scream. Like you can hear the frequency and it's awful. So, you know, now I have, my lab still makes terrible noises, but they're different in a different frequency. So that's nice. So what's graduate school like? This is my pitch for grad school. You get to work on things you really care about and that are really, really exciting. Like the stuff that we work on, you know, is stuff that NASA will maybe be flying in like 30 or 40 years, which is incredible. There's a lot of freedom to research what you're interested in. This kind of, you know, depends on your advisor and your lab, but for the most part, there's a lot of like, hey, if you think this is interesting, go and pursue it. There's a lot of flexibility, a lot of cool people. You get that SoundCloud and Spotify and Amazon student discount forever. And one of the coolest things, in my opinion, is that you can go to international conferences. So this is, I'm wearing the same sweater right now that I am in that picture. But I went to Vienna in my first year of grad school for an electric propulsion conference. And it was just so cool to be able to do that. From like a career standpoint, there's also a lot of cool opportunities. I've gone to both JPL and GRC to work at NASA. And then like as part of my regular life here at Michigan, I get to build thrusters, run my own tests, analyze my own data, which is just, super cool. This is, every time my mom asks me what is grad school like, or like, what do you actually do? This is what I say, which is half the time I turn wrenches and stuff. And then the other half of the time I like stare at a whiteboard and then I write an equation down and then I erase it and then I write a different equation down and then you just repeat. So it's a lot of hands-on work, at least for me, and also a lot of, theory work. It's also, I would say, a lot of hard work and a lot of fun. And this is me matching my plasma physics textbook in terms of outfit, which was an unplanned coordination. So yeah, and then, so this is, I have probably about 1 minute, so I'll do my best to explain what I do in terms of my research. But in electric propulsion, which is a lot of the space propulsion where you use instead of using chemical energy to get fuel, you use electric and magnetic fields. Within electric propulsion, there's a type of device called a Hall thruster. Within that, there's something called magnetic shielding, which is a recent technology that extends the life of Hall thrusters. And within that is a propellant, which is krypton, and that's what I work on. So the point of this like bubble thing is that, in grad school, you tend to work on really specialized fields. And then here's just a cool picture of, a krypton Hall thruster. But, even though it's really specialized, it spans a lot of different disciplines. So like in my daily life, I do all of these things, maybe not all on the same day. Well, sometimes all on the same day, but like I get to dabble kind of in a lot of different disciplines, even though I'm working on such a specialized thing. Okay, this is my very quick life advice. No one ever thinks they know what they're doing, and that's okay. I had a lab mate who, she was in her 5th year when I was in my 1st year, and I asked her something about Hall thrusters once, and she turned to me and dead serious. She was like, I don't know anything about Hall thrusters. And I'm like, you've been here for 5 years. And she's like, yeah, I don't know anything. And I'm like, okay. And now I'm in my 3rd year and I get it. And then the other thing, people have talked about imposter syndrome. The way I combat that is with what I call gotcha syndrome, where instead of being like, oh my God, I don't belong here, just tell yourself like, oh my God, I've tricked all these smart people into thinking I belong here. Oh my God, I'm good. And then my last piece of advice is just to take care of yourself. Like you can't help other people as much if you're struggling. You want to be able to work hard and smart, and then just don't be afraid to ask for help. So yeah, this is a cool video of my thruster running. Now it's broken and I'm trying to fix it, but this was when it was working and it was very cool. Okay, that's it.
Thank you so much. All of you are superstars, these are amazing. I had no idea that, this is going to turn out as good. All right. So last speaker, Christina.
I should unmute myself now. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to try and go quick and fit into this time. Hopefully I can pay attention to that. So starting out the gate, I'm from Canada. I'm not American, so I'm different than everyone else in this respect so far. I graduated from my hometown. And I basically didn't really do anything in high school except for go to classes. That's one thing I really want to kind of highlight here is I always did know I wanted to be an engineer, but I'm lucky my dad was an engineer. So I just had this, like, I'll just do engineering. I really like math, but I didn't like join clubs. I didn't do anything. For some reason, it doesn't want me to. Oh, okay, well, we're here now. But yeah, so basically the only thing I really spent my time doing is I played a lot of soccer. My biggest high school achievement was probably winning our provincials, which is equivalent to your state level. And after that, I just kind of wanted to move out of Winnipeg because it's a tiny town and I wanted something new. So there's the picture. Okay, so yeah, this was our provincial win and that was my biggest high school success. So I really wish that I had some fun, like join this team or something, but maybe just so that you know that even if you didn't have like some great plan from the beginning, it works out. So after this, I applied to McGill, which is in Montreal. So that's on the east coast of Canada. And I actually applied into mechanical engineering. Like I said, my dad was in mechanical engineering, so I knew what that meant and I kind of knew what I was signing myself up for. I really was surprised because my whole life I knew that I wanted to be a mechanical engineer, and then I got there and I didn't know what I wanted to do next. I got to the stage of feeling kind of like unsure and I didn't really have a plan. But I was really lucky because there's a concentration in aeronautical engineering there. So I took 5 graduate courses, and out of that, built and flew our own drone. So this is equivalent to the Michigan M-Fly team, but there was just 5 of us that wanted to do it. So the picture in the left-hand corner here is the SolidWorks drawing. And even though that looks the least fancy, that was the one that took 8 months of work, and everything else was building it and flying it. And if I had the full time, I have this whole video that I will show quickly. Anyways, hopefully you guys can see this. Basically to show that things go badly sometimes. So this was the day before competition and we had to prove that the plane could fly so it didn't damage anyone. So this screen is gonna flip over at one point, but you can see right here, plane's taking off, something's already not right. The wings aren't supposed to bend like that. We're like, uh-oh, this is going bad. We freak out, drop the camera, and we luckily capture the plane hitting a fence. And this was the night before the competition, or the day before the competition. Luckily, we made a good friend there who brought us his drill press into our hotel room, and we were able to repair our aircraft in our tiny hotel room. We had one guy sawing a carbon fiber rod with a mask on in our bathroom. It definitely wasn't safe. I don't know that I'd recommend, but it was probably my biggest failure, and then it went to be my biggest success. The plane flew the next day. I was going to show some pretty pictures of it, but it takes off and flies, and really that's the general idea. And I was so lucky that I did this because, like I mentioned, I really had no plan. I didn't really want to go to industry. I had worked the entire time to pay for grad school at a repair and overhaul for turboprop engines. So these are the engines that go in the C-130J Hercules for Lockheed. So I was there for about 5 years throughout my my undergrad just to pay for school. But I didn't really think I wanted to do that long term because it meant moving back to Winnipeg. So I did a really weird thing where I just Googled aerodynamics and Vancouver, and it turned out that there was an opportunity to get a master's in zoology. And I will explain why that makes a little bit of sense. And it's because I wanted to study birds. So this is a gull. This is in downtown Vancouver. There's beautiful mountains in the background. And to explain a little bit more about why that might make sense is just this comparison. So on the left-hand side, these are real outlines of drones. On the right-hand side, these are birds. And there are some really key similarities between these. So they're very similar in terms of size and speed. And this is really important for the overall fluid dynamics. You'll get a little bit more into this, but in terms of like Reynolds number, which is the ratio of inertial to viscous forces. And it makes a really big difference to compare them. So they also fly in very similar environments. So these small UAVs aren't really getting up into the space. And this is one of the reasons I did feel excited to talk to you guys, maybe right at the end here, is I know nothing about space. All of these other people were saying these really cool things about space. I haven't learned a single thing about space. Like I said, I'm a mechanical engineer with a little bit of aeronautical, and that still works in Michigan and in other places. So I think that that's really fun. But getting back to this idea, why did I even want to be here in the first place and studying these birds? And the cool thing is that this bird on the right-hand side is the same aircraft, whereas on this other side, these are two very different aircraft. They fly really differently. And this brings in the idea of changing the shape of your wing, so wing morphing, to really realize very different style of aerodynamics. And it's such an exciting way of designing. It really opens up the available space, but it's much more difficult. So during my master's, this is while I was still at UBC, I actually had to fly out to Toronto. So I'm back on the East Coast now, using the wind tunnel here. They have a little test section with the bike in. This is a recirculating wind tunnel. We have a much, much bigger one of these at the University of Michigan as well. But really what this allowed me to do was this really unique thing where I taxidermied a bunch of gull wings in different wing positions. So bird wings have different elbow and wrist positions. And I had about 15 different taxidermied wings that I tested in the wind tunnel. Not something I ever thought that I was going to do. So luckily, while I was at UBC, my current advisor—
Christina, I hate to interrupt, but is it possible to wrap in a minute? Because students have to go to class in 3 minutes.
Yes, actually.
I'm sorry to shortchange you.
No, not at all. I actually think I will be done because that was the majority of the work I've done so far. So yeah, while I was at my master's, my current advisor at Michigan was the head of the grant I was on. That was an Air Force research grant. And he just said, come work for me. And that was pretty cool to get to Michigan in that way, in this really roundabout way that was not planned at all and just kind of worked out because of life. And I think that that's probably my biggest takeaway. I'm now doing more engineering based things. So I'm not taxidermying wings, but I'm 3D printing wings. I test the different shapes to look at the specific things, put them in our Michigan wind tunnels. And one day I hope that I could try to design an aircraft, or at least offer inspiration for an aircraft that flies more maneuverably like a bird. So my takeaway in my last second is, don't worry if you don't have a plan. Like, life is kind of exciting, and just do your best and work your hardest and it'll be okay.
Thank you so much again. All right, so we have 3 minutes before class, and I do not think we'll be able to get to everything that we wanted to get to, even in terms of discussion time. But what I'm going to do is I will talk to the Women in STEM group at Pioneer. We can either maybe arrange an alternate time just for questions, or in any case, I'm going to compile all of our emails and we'll be in touch very shortly. Okay. And before I go, I want to tell you something quick, because this is very relevant for you. You know, there are many opportunities that we are not aware of. For instance, this is, an email that I got from AAA. It says, if you know a high school senior who intends to major in aerospace, you could qualify for a $10,000 scholarship. Of course, it's very competitive, but I do want to point out that there are many, many opportunities like this. And as Aisha mentioned earlier, and everyone pretty much said, you should ask people, what's out there. Don't hesitate to ask for help. And we are around to, help you through your journey, whether you come to Michigan Aerospace or not. STEM is what matters. So we're always around. So there is literally less than a minute. So what I want to do is thank you all for joining. An exceptional round of applause for the speakers. They were all like really amazing. I didn't think things would go this well. So thank you for all, and thanks to everyone for listening. I'm going to record this presentation. I mean, it is being recorded. I'll also send you a link so you can give it to other students in your school, and we'll be in touch. We'll be in touch over email, and then we can organize other things. Okay. So yeah, with that, again, if anyone has questions, I can take them for a minute or two. Otherwise, I'll be in touch. But thank you so much for your participation.
I just want to say thank you to everyone on behalf of Pioneer W STEM. I think this was an incredible opportunity for all of us and exceeded all of our expectations. And Aisha, when we heard you'd be joining, we were kind of ecstatic because honestly, we don't hear enough about Pioneer alums who are women in STEM. So this is incredible. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And yeah, now it is time for class, and I don't want to, anger your teachers. So I'll let everyone go, but we'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
Bye. Have a good one.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.